Welcome to 3M Mystery Files. Tonight's story is about a real disappearance that still confuses investigators even today. In 2009, a group of experienced hikers set out on a planned expedition into a remote forest region in the Pacific Northwest. They were trained, well-equipped, and familiar with survival conditions, so the journey was considered low risk for them. They were last seen entering the trailhead early in the morning, checking their gear and confirming their route with each other. Weather conditions were normal, and there were no warnings issued that day. Nothing about their departure suggested that anything unusual was about to happen. However, as the days passed, they failed to check in at the expected time. At first, authorities assumed it was a minor delay or communication issue, but when no contact was made for an extended period, a full search operation was launched. Search teams scanned large areas of dense forest using helicopters, ground units, and tracking dogs. Despite these efforts, there were no immediate signs of the group. No distress signals, no visible campsite, and no clear direction of movement were found in the early stages of the search. After several days, investigators finally discovered what appeared to be their main campsite. Tents were set up, supplies were present, and personal belongings were scattered around. However, the strange part was that the campsite looked abruptly abandoned, as if the group had left in a hurry without taking essential equipment. Even more confusing, some of their navigation tools and gear were found damaged and left behind. There were no signs of a storm or natural disaster strong enough to explain why they would abandon such important survival equipment in a controlled environment. Evidence suggested that the group may have moved away from the campsite in different directions after a certain point. This raised concerns that something may have caused confusion or panic, leading them to split up in dangerous terrain where survival chances dropped significantly. As search operations continued, the terrain made it extremely difficult to track any clear movement patterns. Thick forests, steep slopes, and unpredictable weather erased most physical traces, making it nearly impossible to reconstruct their exact path. Despite months of effort, no confirmed remains or conclusive evidence were found for the majority of the group. The investigation slowly went cold, leaving behind more questions than answers and very few reliable clues about what actually happened. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Some believe it was a tragic navigation error. Others suggest environmental disorientation or unexpected psychological breakdown under pressure. But none of these theories fully explain how a prepared group could vanish so completely without leaving a clear trail. And even now, the biggest question still remains. How does an experienced group enter a forest fully prepared and never find their way back out again? Before we continue to story number 2, a quick request. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon. Now let's move on to the second story. In 2014, a solo traveler named Daniel Mercer arrived in a small coastal town in Oregon for what was supposed to be a short photography trip. He was experienced, careful, and known for exploring remote places to capture nature at its most untouched form. Locals remember him checking into a small roadside motel and asking detailed questions about nearby cliffs and forest trails. On the second day of his trip, Daniel set out early in the morning with his camera, telling the motel owner he would return before sunset. He was last seen walking toward a restricted coastal trail that was officially marked as unsafe due to unstable ground and sudden cliff collapses. Despite warnings, he continued alone, carrying only his camera bag and a small backpack. Later that evening, when Daniel did not return, the motel owner initially assumed he had extended his shoot. But when he failed to check out the next morning and did not respond to messages, concern quickly turned into alarm, and authorities were notified. Search teams were deployed along the coastline, focusing on cliff edges and forest paths. The terrain was extremely dangerous, with thick fog rolling in from the ocean and reducing visibility to just a few meters. Despite extensive searching, there was no immediate sign of Daniel or his equipment. After nearly a week, investigators found his backpack near the edge of a cliff. Inside were his camera, notes, and personal belongings, all carefully placed as if he had paused his journey. However, there were no footprints leading away from the area, and no clear indication of whether he had fallen, left voluntarily, or been taken somewhere else. What made the case even more disturbing was the discovery of camera footage recovered from his device. The last few images showed the coastline, but in the final frame there was something unusual in the background that investigators could never clearly identify. It appeared as a shadow-like figure standing at a distance, though no one else was reported in the area at the time. Despite further investigation, no body was ever recovered, and no confirmed evidence explained what happened after that final photo. Officials eventually ruled it as a likely accident near the cliffs, but many inconsistencies in the timeline left room for doubt. Over time, theories began to spread online. Some believed Daniel may have slipped in the fog and fallen into the ocean, while others suggested he may have encountered someone in the restricted area. A few even claimed the final image suggests he was not alone in those last moments. And even today, the question remains unanswered. How does a prepared traveler vanish in a monitored trail, leaving behind only a camera and a final image no one can fully explain? Like, share, and subscribe my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.